The Galactic Military Academy stood on Station Velhara, like a metal mountain, floating in space. Cadets from 40 different species came here to train. They came to become soldiers. They came to serve the Alliance. Most of them followed the rules. Most of them wanted to succeed. Cadet 13 was not like most of them. His real name was Rivik. He was Velathi, a species known for their gray scales and cold blood. They were reptiles who walked on two legs and spoke with sharp tongues. Rivik had been a promising cadet once. Smart, strong, fast. But somewhere along the way, something broke inside him. Now everyone just called him Cadet 13. Among his people, losing your name was the greatest shame. It meant you were no longer worthy of being called a person. You were just a number, a problem to be solved. Rivik had earned that number with 17 violations in 6 months. He had fought 3 instructors. He had broken the nose of a senior cadet. He had stolen food from the kitchens, hacked into training simulations, and once set fire to a supply closet just to see what would happen. When Commander Thalas asked him why he did these things, Rivik just smiled and said nothing. Commander Thalas was a Brennic, a species with 4 arms and skin like brown leather. She had served in 3 wars and trained thousands of cadets. She had never met anyone like Rivik. He was not stupid. That was the problem. He was smart enough to cause real damage and angry enough to enjoy it. The other cadets stayed away from him. Some feared him, others hated him. A few felt sorry for him, but they kept their distance too. Rivik liked it that way. He told himself he didn't need anyone. He told himself he was stronger alone. In the sparring ring, no one could beat him. His scales were thick. His reflexes were fast. His claws could cut through training armor like paper. He fought dirty, and he fought mean. The instructors stopped putting him in matches because he always hurt his opponents more than necessary. One day, Commander Thalas called him to her office. Rivik walked in with his usual attitude. He did not salute. He did not stand straight. He just leaned against the wall and waited for her to yell at him. But she did not yell. She just looked at him with her 4 eyes and sighed. "Sit down," she said. Rivik did not sit. "I'll stand." Thalas let it go. She was too tired to fight about small things. "I have news," she said. "We are getting a transfer. A special one." Rivik raised one eye-ridge. "So?" "He will be assigned to your unit, as an advisor." "An advisor?" Rivik laughed. "What kind of advisor?" "A human." The word hung in the air. Rivik blinked. Then he laughed again, louder this time. "A human? You're putting a human in my unit?" He shook his head. "Humans are soft. They bleed easy. They break easy. What is he going to advise me on? How to cry?" Thalas did not smile. "His name is Sergeant Kang Teho. He comes from Earth's military exchange program. He has served in 4 combat zones. He volunteered for this assignment." "Volunteered?" Rivik stopped laughing. "Why would anyone volunteer to work with me?" "I asked the same question," Thalas said. "He said he likes challenges." Rivik felt something he did not recognize. It was not fear. He did not know fear. But it was something close. Something that made his scales itch. "When does he arrive?" he asked. "Tomorrow." Rivik left without another word. He did not sleep well that night. He kept thinking about what Thalas had said. A human who liked challenges. A human who volunteered. It made no sense. Everyone knew what humans were. They were small compared to most species. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. Their skin was soft and thin. They could not smell danger. They were average in every way, and yet the galaxy feared them. Rivik had heard the stories, of course. Every cadet had. Stories about human soldiers who walked through fire. Stories about human pilots who crashed their ships into enemy stations and survived. Stories about humans who kept fighting long after they should have been dead. But Rivik thought those were just stories. Propaganda, lies to make a weak species seem strong. He would show this human what real strength looked like. The next day, the shuttle bay was crowded with cadets. Everyone wanted to see the human. It was rare for one to come to Velhara. Most humans stayed on their own ships or their own stations. They did not mix well with others. Rivik stood at the back of the crowd with his arms crossed. Beside him was a young Velathi female named Yuna. She was quiet and kept to herself. Rivik did not know why she always stood near him. He had never asked. "I read about humans," Yuna said softly. "They are interesting." "They are weak," Rivik replied. "Maybe," Yuna said, "but they did not become the third largest military power in the Alliance by being weak." Rivik did not answer. The shuttle bay doors began to open. Cold air rushed in from the docking tunnel. The lights flickered once. Then a figure stepped through. He was not what Rivik expected. The human was tall for his species, but still shorter than Rivik. He was lean, with muscles that looked like cables under his tan skin. His hair was black and cut short. His face was calm. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they moved slowly across the crowd like he was reading every face. He wore a simple gray uniform, with no decorations, except for a small patch on his shoulder that showed Earth's symbol. He did not smile. He did not wave. He did not look nervous or excited or scared. He just walked. And something about the way he walked made Rivik's scales itch again. It was too steady, too controlled, like every step was planned. Like nothing in the universe could surprise him. The human stopped in front of Commander Thalas and saluted. His movements were sharp and clean. "Sergeant Kang Teho," he said. His voice was low and smooth. "Reporting for duty." Thalas returned the salute. "Welcome to Velhara, Sergeant. Your unit is waiting." The human turned and looked at the crowd. His eyes found Rivik instantly, like he already knew who he was looking for. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Rivik felt the itch spread from his scales to his spine. The human's eyes did not blink. They did not look away. They just watched. Patient, calm, empty. No, not empty. There was something in those eyes. Something old. Something tired. Something that had seen things Rivik could not imagine. The human nodded once, very slightly. Then he turned and followed Thalas out of the bay. Rivik stood frozen. Yuna looked at him. "Are you okay?" she asked. Rivik did not answer. He was too busy trying to understand what had just happened. He had stared down commanders. He had stared down warriors twice his size. None of them had made him feel like this. Like he was being measured. Like he was being found small. Rivik shook his head and walked away. He told himself it was nothing. The human was just another soft creature pretending to be hard. But that night, Rivik checked the locks on his door 3 times before he slept. The first morning with the human was strange. Rivik's unit gathered in the training hall at dawn. There were 6 of them in total. Rivik, Yuna, a nervous Brannick named Solace, an insectoid named Keth, who thought he was better than everyone, and 2 others, who kept their heads down and followed orders. Sergeant Kang Teho stood at the front of the room. He did not speak. He just watched them file in, his dark eyes moving from face to face. When everyone was seated, he nodded once. "I am Sergeant Teho," he said. "I am here to advise, not to command, not to punish, just to advise." His voice was calm, flat, like he was reading from a boring book. Rivik leaned back in his chair. "Advise us on what? How to be soft?" The room went quiet. Everyone looked at Teho, waiting for him to react, waiting for him to get angry or defensive or embarrassed. Teho just looked at Rivik. His expression did not change. "Noted," he said. Just one word. Then he turned and continued talking about the training schedule like nothing had happened. Rivik felt his blood heat up. He had insulted the human's entire species in front of everyone. Any other soldier would have challenged him. Any other officer would have punished him. But this human just said, "Noted," and moved on. It was maddening. After the meeting, Rivik followed Tejo into the hallway. "Hey," he called out. "Human, I'm talking to you." Tejo stopped and turned. He waited. "You don't belong here," Rivik said. "This is a real military academy. We train real soldiers, not soft little creatures from a soft little planet." Tejo tilted his head slightly. "You have something against Earth?" "I have something against weakness," Rivik said. He stepped closer, using his height to look down at the human. "And humans are weak. You have no claws, no scales, no venom. You're just meat wrapped in thin skin." Tejo looked up at him. He did not step back. He did not blink. "You're right," he said. Rivik paused. "We have no claws, no scales, no venom." Tejo's voice was still calm, still flat. "We are exactly what you said, just meat and thin skin." He turned and walked away. Rivik stood in the hallway, confused. He had expected a fight. He had wanted a fight. But the human had just agreed with him and left. It felt like losing without throwing a single punch. That night, Yuna found Rivik in the observation deck. He was staring out at the stars, his tail twitching with anger. "You tried to provoke him," she said. "He's a coward," Rivik replied. "He won't even defend himself." Yuna sat down beside him. She pulled out a small data pad and showed him the screen. "I did some research on humans." "I don't care about your research." "You should." She scrolled through the data. "Humans evolved on a planet called Earth. It is a dangerous place. Extreme temperatures, natural disasters, predators everywhere. Most species that evolved there went extinct. So humans survived, not because they were the strongest or fastest, but because they did not stop." She looked at him. "They are what scientists call persistence predators." Rivik frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means they hunt by chasing. On Earth, humans would pick a target and follow it. Not fast, just steady. They would follow it for hours, days. The prey would run and run until its heart gave out from exhaustion, and the human would still be walking behind it." Rivik said nothing. "They don't need to be strong," Yuna continued. "They just need to be patient. They wear their enemies down. They never stop, never give up, never quit." She put the datapad away. "That is why the galaxy fears them." Rivik shook his head. "Just stories to scare children." "Maybe," Yuna said. "But I watched him today. When you insulted him, his heart rate did not change. His breathing stayed the same. He was not scared of you, Rivik. He was not even bothered." She stood up to leave. "I think he's waiting for something. I just don't know what." After she left, Rivik stayed on the observation deck for a long time. He tried to forget what she had said, but the words stuck in his head like thorns. Persistence predators. They never stop. Around midnight, Rivik could not sleep. He decided to walk through the station to clear his head. The halls were empty and dark. Most cadets were asleep. But when he passed the training room, he saw light under the door. He opened it quietly and looked inside. Tejo was there, alone. He stood in the center of the room, running combat simulations on the holographic system. Enemy after enemy appeared around him, and he fought them all. His movements were fast but controlled. He dodged, he struck. He moved like water, flowing from one position to the next. Rivik watched for 10 minutes, then 20, then 30. Tejo did not slow down. He did not breathe hard. He did not sweat. The simulation ended. Tejo stood still for a moment, then started it again. Rivik checked the display on the wall. According to the log, Tejo had been training for 4 hours already. 4 hours of constant combat, and he looked exactly the same as when he started. A cold feeling crept up Rivik's spine. He thought about what Yuna had said, about persistence, about never stopping. He watched the human fight for another hour. Taeho never noticed him. Or maybe he did notice, and just did not care. When Rivik finally went back to his room, the cold feeling had not gone away. It had spread deeper, into his bones. He lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. All his life, Rivik had been the strongest in every room. He had used his strength to bully, to intimidate, to control. It was all he knew. It was all he had. But strength meant nothing against someone who did not stop. He remembered the look in Taeho's eyes when they first met. That calm, patient look, like he was waiting, like he had all the time in the universe. Now Rivik understood what that look meant. Taeho was not afraid of him. Taeho was not impressed by him. Taeho looked at Rivik the same way a hunter looks at a wounded animal. Not with anger, not with hate, just with patience. Rivik did not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those dark human eyes watching him, waiting. In the morning he looked in the mirror and saw something he had never seen on his own face before. Fear. Just a shadow behind his eyes. But it was there. And for the first time in his life, Rivik did not know what to do with it. The survival exercise came 3 weeks later. Commander Thalas gathered all the cadets in the main hall and explained the mission. They would be dropped on a moon called Velkar 7. The moon was cold, rocky, and filled with predators. Each team would have 72 hours to cross 50 kilometers of dangerous terrain and reach the extraction point. It was supposed to be simple. Stay together, move carefully, survive. Rivik's team was made up of 5 members. Him, Yuna, Solace the nervous Brennick, Keth the proud insectoid, and Taeho. Before they left, Rivik pulled the team together. "I'm in charge," he said. "The human is just an advisor. He doesn't give orders. I do." No one argued. Keth looked annoyed but said nothing. Solace just nodded, his 4 hands trembling slightly. Yuna watched Taeho, but the human showed no reaction. "Fine by me," Taeho said. They dropped onto Velkar 7 as the sun was setting. The moon was exactly as bad as promised. Sharp rocks everywhere, freezing wind, strange sounds in the distance. Rivik started moving immediately. He did not want to waste time. He set a fast pace, pushing through the rocky valleys without stopping to rest. By midnight, Solace was exhausted. His species needed more rest than others. He stumbled and fell twice. "Keep moving," Rivik ordered. "We stop when I say we stop." Yuna looked at Taeho. The human said nothing. He just kept walking, his eyes scanning the darkness around them. By morning, they had covered 20 kilometers. Rivik was proud. They were ahead of schedule, but Solace could barely stand, and even Keth was breathing hard. "We should rest," Yuna said. "No," Rivik replied. "We keep moving." That was when Keth saw something. His compound eyes spotted movement on the ridge above them. He pointed with one thin arm. "What is that?" Rivik looked up. At first, he saw nothing. Then he saw them. 3 shapes moving along the ridge. They were big. 6 legs, long bodies, gray skin that blended with the rocks. Ravik. Rivik had read about them. They were the apex predators of Velkar 7. Fast, smart, and deadly. They usually avoided large groups, but they could smell weakness. They could smell fear. And Rivik had pushed his team too hard. They were weak. They were tired. They were perfect prey. "Move," Rivik said, "now." They ran. But running was a mistake. The Ravik saw them and gave chase. 3 became 5. 5 became 7. They poured down from the ridge like a gray wave. Rivik led them into a narrow canyon, hoping to lose the predators. But the canyon was a dead end. High walls on 3 sides. The only way out was the way they came, and the Ravek were already there. 7 of them stood at the canyon entrance. They were huge up close. Each one was twice the size of Rivik. Their mouths were filled with teeth like broken glass. Their eyes glowed faint yellow in the dim light. Keth drew his weapon. "We fight." "There are 7 of them," Solace whispered. His voice was shaking. "Then we die fighting," Keth said. Rivik stood frozen. His mind was blank. He had trained for combat. He had trained for missions. But nothing had prepared him for this. 7 predators. No escape. No backup. This was his fault. He had pushed too hard. He had been stupid. The Ravek began to move closer. Slow, patient, they knew their prey was trapped. Then Tejo stepped forward. He walked past Rivik like he was taking a morning stroll. He stopped a few meters in front of the team, directly between them and the predators. "What are you doing?" Rivik hissed. Tejo did not answer. He bent down and picked up a sharp rock. Then, without hesitation, he cut his own palm. Blood dripped onto the ground. Red human blood. The smell of it filled the air. The Ravek stopped. Their heads tilted. They watched the human with confusion. Tejo began walking toward them. "He's insane," Keth said. But Yuna grabbed Keth's arm. "Wait. Watch." Tejo walked slowly, steadily. Blood dripped from his hand with every step. He did not run. He did not show fear. He just walked, his dark eyes locked on the largest Ravek. The predator was confused. This was not how prey behaved. Prey ran, prey screamed, prey showed fear. This creature did none of those things. Tejo stopped 3 meters from the lead Ravek. He stared into its yellow eyes. He did not blink. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3, then 4. The Ravek growled. It snapped its jaws. It tried to make the human look away. Tejo did not move. His breathing stayed slow. His heart stayed calm. He just kept staring. Something changed in the predator's eyes. The hunger faded. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like uncertainty. The lead Ravik took a step back, then another. The others followed. One by one, they turned and walked away, disappearing into the rocks. Tejo stood alone in the canyon entrance for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to the team. His expression had not changed. "We can move now," he said. No one spoke. They just stared at him. Finally, Rivik found his voice. "What did you do?" Tejo wrapped a bandage around his bleeding hand. "I convinced them I wasn't worth the cost." "How?" Tejo looked at him. "Predators make calculations. Every hunt is a risk. If the prey might hurt them, the hunt isn't worth it." He finished the bandage. "I showed them I wasn't afraid to bleed. I showed them I would make them pay for every bite. They decided to find easier food." That night they found a cave and made camp. Keth was quiet for once. Solace had stopped shaking. Rivik sat alone in the corner, staring at the fire. Yuna sat next to Tejo. "How did you stay so calm?" she asked. "You were standing in front of 7 predators. You should have been terrified." Tejo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I was scared." Yuna blinked. "You were?" "Yes, I'm always scared." He looked at the fire. "Fear is just information. It tells you something is dangerous. What you do with that information is the only thing that matters." Yuna thought about this. "What do you do with it?" Tejo almost smiled. "Almost. I use it. Fear keeps you sharp. Fear keeps you alive. The trick is not letting it control you." Across the cave, Rivik listened. He did not say anything, but something was happening inside him. Something he did not understand. For the first time in his life, he had seen real strength. Not the strength of muscles or claws. Not the strength of anger or violence. The strength to stand still when everything told you to run. The strength to bleed without flinching. The strength to face death and make death look away first. That night, Rivik did not sleep well. He kept thinking about those 4 minutes. The human and the predator. The silence. The staring. And he realized something that shook him to his core. If Tejo could make a Ravik back down, he could make anyone back down. The second day of the exercise started quiet. After the Ravik encounter, Rivik let the team set their own pace. He did not push, he did not demand. He just walked at the back and watched. Watched Tejo. The human moved like he belonged here. His eyes never stopped scanning. His feet found the safest path without him seeming to think about it. When the wind changed direction, he was the first to notice. When a rock was loose, he stepped around it before anyone else saw the danger. He was always watching, always thinking, always ready. By noon, they were 35 kilometers in. 15 more to the extraction point. They would make it easily. Then they heard the ship. It came from the east, flying low over the rocks. It was not an Alliance vessel. The shape was wrong. The colors were wrong. It was dark and angular, like a knife cutting through the sky. "That's not one of ours," Keth said. For the first time, Rivik saw something other than calm in his eyes. It was recognition. "Pirates," Tejo said. "Everyone down, now." They dropped behind a rock formation and watched. The ship landed 2 kilometers away. A ramp opened, and figures poured out, 20 of them, maybe more. They carried weapons and moved in formation. "What are pirates doing here?" Solace whispered. His voice was shaking again. "Training exercises attract attention," Tejo said. "Cadets are valuable. Ransom, slavery, there's always a market." Rivik felt sick. This was supposed to be a simulation, a test, not a real fight. They watched the pirates spread out across the moon's surface. They were hunting cadets. An hour later, they heard screams in the distance, then silence. Tejo closed his eyes. When he opened them, its face was stone. "They have prisoners now," he said. "We need to move, reach the extraction point. Call for help." They moved, fast but careful. Tejo took the lead now, and no one argued. They crossed 3 kilometers without being seen. Then Yuna stopped. "Where's Solace?" Everyone turned. Solace was gone. He had been right behind them a moment ago. Rivik looked back the way they came. In the distance, he saw figures dragging something across the rocks. Something with 4 arms. "They got him," Keth said. "We need to keep moving." Tejo was very still. He stared at the distant figures for a long time. Then he turned to face the team. "I'm going back for him." Keth laughed. It was a nervous, ugly sound. "You're insane. There are 20 of them. You are one human, one soft, fragile human." "Yes," Tejo said. "I am." "Then you'll die." "Maybe." Tejo checked his weapon. It was a small sidearm, barely enough to stop one pirate, let alone 20. "Are you coming?" "This is suicide." Yuna stepped forward. "I'll come." Rivik stared at her. "Yuna, don't be stupid." She looked at him with calm eyes. "Solace is our teammate. We don't leave teammates behind." Rivik wanted to argue. He wanted to say she was being foolish, that one life wasn't worth risking 3 more, that the smart thing was to run and get help. But when he looked at Tejo, he saw something that made him stop. The human was not afraid. He was not excited. He was not angry. He was just ready. Ready to walk into a camp of 20 armed pirates, with nothing but a small gun and his own 2 hands. And he was going to do it whether anyone came with him or not. Rivik thought about everything he had seen in the past weeks. The patience, the training, the staring contest with the Ravek. He thought about what Yuna had told him about persistence predators. They never stop. They never give up. "I'm coming too," Kef stared at him, like he had lost his mind. "You're all going to die." "Then go to the extraction point," Rivik said. "Call for help. If we're not back in 3 hours, tell them what happened." Keth hesitated. Then he nodded and ran. Tejo looked at Rivik. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. It might have been respect. "Stay behind me," he said. "Do exactly what I say." They moved. What happened next was not a battle. Battles are loud and chaotic. This was something else. This was hunting. Tejo led them through the rocks like a ghost. He found the pirate camp without making a sound. He counted guards, mapped patrol routes, and found weak points in their defense. Then he started to work. He did not fight fair. He did not give warnings. He did not show mercy. He used the terrain. He collapsed a rock formation onto 2 guards. He led 3 more into a Ravek nest and let the predators do the work. He set fires to flush pirates into narrow passages where Rivik and Yuna waited. He got hurt. A blade caught his shoulder. A plasma burn marked his ribs. He bled from a dozen cuts. He did not slow down. Rivik watched a human drag a pirate twice his size into the shadows. He heard sounds he would never forget. When Tejo came back, there was blood on his hands that was not his own. His face was still calm. In 90 minutes, 20 pirates became 10, then 5, then none. They found solace in a cargo container, bound and scared, but alive. Yuna cut him free, while Rivik stood guard. Tejo sat on a rock nearby. Blood dripped from his shoulder. His breathing was finally heavy, but his eyes were the same as always, patient, watching. Rivik walked over to him. His legs felt weak. His hands were shaking. "What are you?" he asked. For a moment, his mask cracked. Rivik saw exhaustion underneath, pain, and something that looked almost like sadness. "I'm human," Tejo said. "That's not an answer." Tejo was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Humans evolved on a world that never stops trying to kill us. Ice ages, predators, diseases, other humans." He looked at his bloody hands. "We didn't become the strongest. We didn't become the fastest. We became the ones who refused to stop, no matter what." He looked at Rivik with those dark, tired eyes. "You want to know what I am? I'm what happens when you take a species that survived everything and teach it how to fight." Rivik sat down hard. His legs would not hold him anymore. He finally understood what he was feeling. It was not just fear. It was the realization that everything he thought made him strong was nothing compared to what he had just witnessed. Tejo was not strong because he could fight. He was strong because nothing could make him stop. And that was more terrifying than any claw, or scale, or weapon. They made it to the extraction point before dawn. Keth had called for help, and 3 Alliance ships were waiting for them. Medical teams rushed out to treat Solace and the other captured cadets. Officers asked questions. Reports were filed. But something strange happened with the official records. The pirate attack was classified, top secret. According to the files, it never happened. The training exercise ended normally. All cadets passed. Rivik did not understand why until Commander Thalas explained it to him. "The Alliance doesn't want anyone to know that pirates infiltrated a military exercise," she said. "It would be embarrassing. So officially, nothing happened." "But something did happen," Rivik said. Thalas looked at him for a long moment. "Yes, it did." She did not say anything more, but Rivik understood. What Tejo had done was not something the Alliance wanted people asking questions about. A single human killing 20 pirates with almost nothing was the kind of story that spread. The kind of story that made other species nervous. So they buried it. Tejo spent 3 days in the medical bay. His injuries were not serious by human standards, but the doctors wanted to observe him. Rivik visited once, but Tejo was sleeping. He looked almost peaceful, almost normal. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had walked through a pirate camp like death itself. When Taeho was released, things went back to normal. Training continued. Exercises continued. Rivik still had to attend classes and follow schedules, and deal with instructors who looked at him like he was a problem waiting to happen. But something had changed. Rivik stopped fighting. He did not argue with instructors anymore. He did not break equipment or start brawls. When someone gave him an order, he followed it. When someone asked him a question, he answered politely. The other cadets noticed. They whispered about it. Some thought he was sick. Others thought he was planning something. Yuna knew the truth. "You're different now," she said one evening. "Am I?" "Yes, before you were always angry, always looking for a fight." She studied his face. "Now you're quiet, calm, almost like him." Rivik did not answer. He knew what she meant. He had been trying to be like Taeho without even realizing it. Not the fighting part, the control part, the discipline part. For his whole life, Rivik had thought strength meant hurting others, making them afraid, showing them who was in charge. But Taeho had shown him something else. Strength was not about violence. It was about choice. Choosing when to fight and when to wait. Choosing what mattered and what did not. The Ravik had been dangerous, but Taeho had not attacked them. He had just refused to be prey. The pirates had been enemies, but Taeho had not fought them out of anger. He had fought because someone needed to be saved. That was the difference. Rivik had always used his strength for himself. Taeho used his strength for others. A week later, Commander Thalas called Rivik to her office again. "Sit down," she said. This time Rivik sat. Thalas looked at him with her 4 eyes. "I've been watching you. You've changed." "Yes, Commander. No more fighting, no more destruction. Your instructors say you actually follow orders now." She leaned back in her chair. "What happened?" Rivik thought about how to answer. He could have lied. He could have said nothing happened. But he did not want to lie anymore. "I learned something," he said. "What?" "That I was weak." Thalas raised an eyebrow ridge. "You? Weak? You're the strongest cadet in your year. Strength isn't about muscles or claws. I know that now. Real strength is control, discipline, being able to stop yourself when everything inside you wants to fight." He looked at his hands. "I never had that. I just had anger. Anger is easy. Discipline is hard." Thalas was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "The human taught you this?" "Yes. Humans are interesting creatures," Thalas said. "They look soft, but they are harder than they appear." "They're terrifying," Rivik said honestly. Thalas almost smiled. "Yes, they are." She reached into her desk and pulled out a small metal pin. It was shaped like a Valathi symbol, the symbol for honor. "Your name is being restored," she said. "You are no longer Cadet 13. You are Cadet Rivik again." Rivik stared at the pin. He had wanted this for so long. He had dreamed about it. But now that it was here, he felt strange. Like he did not deserve it yet. "I want to stay in Taeho's unit," he said. Thalas blinked. "You do?" "Yes. I still have a lot to learn." "Very well." She handed him the pin. "Congratulations, Cadet Rivik. Try not to lose your name again." That evening, Rivik found Taeho on the observation deck. The human was standing alone, watching the stars. His shoulder was still bandaged under his uniform, but he moved like nothing had happened. Rivik stood beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. "I got my name back," Rivik finally said. Taeho nodded. "Good. Thank you." Taeho turned to look at him. "For what?" "For showing me what I was missing." Rivik touched the pin on his chest. "For showing me that fear doesn't make you weak. That discipline matters more than strength. That real power is knowing when not to use it." Taeho was quiet. Then he said something that surprised Rivik. "You did the hard part yourself. I just walked in front of some animals and got in a few fights. You're the one who decided to change." He looked back at the stars. "That takes more courage than anything I did." Rivik did not know what to say. He was not used to compliments. They stood in silence for a while longer. Then a shuttle appeared in the distance, approaching the station. "New batch of cadets," Tejo said. "Probably another problem child in there somewhere." Rivik thought about himself 6 months ago. Angry, lost, hurting everyone around him, because he did not know how else to feel strong. "Then someone should teach them," he said. Tejo looked at him. "Teach them what?" Rivik remembered the Ravik, the staring, the patience, the 4 minutes that changed everything. "What fear is for," he said. "How to use it, instead of being used by it." Just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. But it was the first time Rivik had ever seen him smile. "That sounds like a good lesson," Tejo said. They watched the shuttle land together. New cadets poured out, looking nervous and excited and scared. Somewhere in that crowd was probably someone like Rivik used to be. Someone angry, someone lost. But now there was someone to help them. Rivik looked at Tejo, the human who had terrified him, the human who had taught him, the human who had shown him what real strength looked like. "Sergeant," Rivik said. "Yes? I'm glad you came to Velhara." Tejo nodded once. "So am I, Cadet Rivik. So am I." They stood together on the observation deck, watching the new cadets file into the station. The stars glittered in the darkness behind them, cold and endless. Somewhere out there were pirates and predators and 1,000 other dangers. But here, on this station, a human had taught a monster how to be something better. And maybe, Rivik thought, that was the most terrifying thing of all. Not what humans could destroy, but what they could build.